With today's foldable, we're going to be talking about what I call the coordinate plane. So if you open this up to start, I'm just going to title this whole thing right here, coordinate plane. That's what we call this right here, this whole little graphing system. These two lines with arrows and then the grid in between is the coordinate plane. And within the coordinate plane, there are 7 locations. And so I'm going to talk about those 7 locations right now. And I'm going to start with these 2 big lines that go through, that intersect here in the middle. The first line that goes up and down is what we call the y-axis. So that's the first location on our coordinate plane. One location is the y-axis. The other location on our coordinate plane is this axis right here. It goes left to right, it's on the horizon, and we call it the x-axis. Oftentimes I ask students to make an X with their arms and then collapse them, and when they do that, they make a straight line, which is the X, what looks like the x-axis. And then I'll have them make a Y with their bodies, like they're doing the YMCA, and collapse it. And when they do that, they get a straight up and down line, which is the y-axis. So it's just kind of a silly little thing that I have them do to remind them which is which. The X goes side to side, the Y goes up and down. So coordinate plane, 7 locations. We've got 2 of them, the y-axis and the x-axis. The y-axis and the x-axis intersect at this center point of this coordinate plane, and they intersect at the point that we call the origin, which when we write the ordered pair, which I'll talk about what an ordered pair is in a little bit, we write it as in parentheses 0, 0. So the origin is at 0, 0. And that is the ordered pair for the origin. The origin is where the x and y axis meet. It's at the very center of the coordinate plane. And it is the 3rd location that we've talked about. So locations on our coordinate plane, we've got our x-axis, our y-axis, our origin. And then we've got 4 more locations. And hopefully you're beginning to think through and see, oh, I see 4 sections. Section 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those must be the 4 other locations. And you would be correct in thinking that. This first location right over here is where we start, because in this case, from our origin, if we go up on our y-axis, our numbers are going to be positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as we go right on our x-axis, our numbers are going to get positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this over here is in the positives. This is what we call, and so I'm going to fold this over and just label this. We call this quadrant 1. And in quadrant 1, all of our ordered pairs are going to be a positive number, comma, a positive number inside parentheses. So the origin was 0, 0. 0 is not positive or negative. So in quadrant 1, which we label with a Roman numeral 1, by the way, that's what that I stands for, is Roman numeral 1, quadrant 1, all of our points are going to be positive, positive. Now from here we move counterclockwise, and this is quadrant 1, so then this location here is what we call quadrant 2. And we label that quadrant with Roman numeral 2, which is 2 capital I's. And in this quadrant, all of our ordered pairs are going to be labeled a negative number, comma, a positive number inside parentheses. And again, we're going to talk more about ordered pairs in a second. But what I want you to know is that the first number will be negative and the second number will be positive in the ordered pair if the point falls in the location of quadrant 2. So we've got quadrant 1, quadrant 2, down here is quadrant 3, so we're going to continue going counterclockwise. Quadrant 3 is labeled with 3 capital letter I's, that's the Roman numerals for 3. Quadrant 3, in quadrant 3's ordered pairs are always going to be 2 negative numbers in parentheses. So negative, comma, negative is what I'm going to put here just to tell myself that anytime a point is located in quadrant 3, it's going to have an ordered pair of a negative number with a negative number, 2 negative numbers. So hopefully you can guess the last quadrant. We've got quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3. This last one is what we call quadrant 4. And quadrant 4 in Roman numerals is a capital I with a capital V. So we label it capital I, capital V for Roman numeral 4, quadrant 4. And in this quadrant, our X of our ordered pair is going to be positive, and the Y value of our ordered pair is going to be negative. And so we say X comma, or positive comma negative to show that in quadrant 4, our ordered pair will start with a positive number, give us a comma, and then end with a negative number in our ordered pair. So I'm going to open back up here so we can see the whole coordinate plane. The coordinate plane is made up of 7 locations. The origin, the x-axis, the y-axis, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 7 locations on the coordinate plane that I want you to know about. Within the coordinate plane, we have what we call, we graph or we plot what we call ordered pairs. And ordered pairs are always written inside parentheses. The first number is what we call our x value. The second number is what we call our y value. It goes in alphabetical order. X, then y. So our x coordinate comes first, our y coordinate comes second. So for example, if I plotted a point, we're always going to plot points where 2 lines intersect, at least for now. So when I plot this point, the x value of this point is 1, 2, 3, 4. On my x-axis, I went over 4. And my y value is up 1, 2, 3. So this point is located at 4, 3. It's also located in quadrant 1. So if we wanted a broader term for where it's located in quadrant 1, but it's located at the point 4, 3. Now, from the origin on our x-axis, I said when we go right, it was positive. When we go left, it's negative. So this is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. And as I go down from my origin, my x values go negative. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. And so now you can see that this ordered pair was 2 positive numbers, which is why we wrote positive, positive next to quadrant 1. If I plot a point in quadrant 2, for example, let's say I plot this point up here, this point is always going to be, I'm going to do my x first because it comes first in the alphabet. So in this case, that's negative 5. And then my y value comes second. In this case, that's positive 4. I write them in parentheses and separate them by a comma, and you'll notice that we wrote up here that in quadrant 2, the first number would be negative, the second number would be positive, and so I've got negative, positive. So then let's say I put a point here in quadrant number 3. This point is located in quadrant number 3. If I asked you for its ordered pair or the point where it's located, you would give me the x number first. In this case, the x value is negative 2. And the y value is also negative 2. And so this point is located at negative 2, negative 2, which if we come back in quadrant 3, our points are always going to be negative, negative. So it's going to be 2 negative numbers. I'm going to plot one more point in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is always going to be a positive and then a negative. And so I'm just going to give you a positive and a negative, 3, negative 1. As your ordered pair. And I'm going to ask you to label it with a letter A. If I ask you to do that, a positive and a negative number tells us that this point's going to be in quadrant 4, so it's going to be somewhere over here. The first number is our x value, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 on my x-axis. The negative 1 is what's on my y, so I'm going to go from 3 down 1. And then I can plot that point, letter A, and label it A because that's what I asked you to do. So x and then y, alphabetical order, I always go side to side first and then up and down. So if I asked you to plot point B at 5, 0, Remember that we're always going to go side to side first, so this first number tells us that our x value is 5. The second number tells us that our y value is going to stay at 0, which is in line with the origin. And so I would label this point letter B. 5, 0 is most commonly mixed up with 0, 5. And that's because people forget what order to go. And remember that we always, the first number is our x, the second number is our y. So in this case, our x value is 0, so we're not going to move side to side at all, but we're going to move up 5, and let's label this point C. If I go up 5, I can plot this point and label it with a capital C to label that point. So today we talked about the coordinate plane. We talked about the 7 locations being the x-axis, the y-axis, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, and all of those are listed with Roman numerals. We also gave you a little cheat sheet about what your ordered pairs will be. In quadrant 1, positive, positive, in quadrant 2, negative, positive, in quadrant 3, negative, negative, and in quadrant 4, positive, negative. We talked about labeling points with their ordered pairs. We also gave you ordered pairs and asked you to plot them on the coordinate plane. We said that ordered pairs always go in alphabetical order, x and then y. So we always go side to side on our x-axis and then go up and down on our y-axis. And again, I just want to remind you that the origin is located at the center of that coordinate plane and its ordered pair is 0, 0.